Hello, my friends. Aaron Beth here from Aaron's Refrigeration. We have a kind of an unusual project going here. We have a customer that has an old 361 RFD refrigerator. It's about 35, 40 years old. And she needs to replace it, and she can't get it out of the house. When the house was built, they hoisted the refrigerator up. The kitchen's up on the second floor. So it's going to be a real challenge for us to get it out and get another one in there. The main problem is she has a spiral staircase and it won't fit. So what we did was we took off the doors on this 561 because this is the only thing we had that would fit in there. She wanted to use her old door panels, so this is a framed unit. So we removed the doors, we took off the condenser, fan motor, 2 compressors. This stuff is all loose, so we can move it if we have to. But to make it as light as possible for the movers, we'll take all the drawers out when we get there. And here are all the parts, the compressors, condenser, fan, timer, and all that. You'll notice I have plugs, rubber plugs on all the lines, so no air or moisture can get inside the system. So we're going to get this thing loaded up on the truck and drop it off at the customer's house tomorrow. And from there, we'll wait for the movers to come. And while I'm waiting for them, I will disassemble the old 361 and take the compressor and parts off so they can get it out and get this one in. So if you want to follow along, feel free to do so. I will be recording as much of this project as I can. Thanks for watching. Hello, my friends. We are back here now with a new project. This is a Sub-Zero model 561, and we have a customer that has an old 35, 40-year-old 361 RFD, and she wants to replace it, and she can't get anything into her apartment or into her house because they use the crane to get the old refrigerator in 35, 40 years ago. It's up on the second floor. It's got to go around a spiral staircase. And so the only thing we had in the shop was this 561. She wanted to use her old door panels, so she needed a framed unit, which this is. So in this project, what we're going to do, in order to help them get this up the stairs, we're going to completely disassemble it. We're going to take off the doors, we're going to take off the compressors, we're going to take off the condenser, the fan motor, and everything is going to come out so that it's just basically a shell, and then we will reassemble it once we get it into the location. So if you want to follow on in this project, then we'll be doing this in spurts, and we'll see how it pans out. So stand by. Okay, step 1 here, we're going to remove these little E-clips that hold the door closers on. Right there, it's this little clip. And then we're going to take this door closer, unconnect it, and then we're going to do the freezer also, the freezer door. Okay, so there is no E-clip on this side. There you go. Disconnect that. And now we can remove the doors. Okay, this is a 7/64 hex size hex key. Some of the older models use just Phillips head screws, but this one's changed. And there's 2 Phillips head shipping screws in here also. Right here. That have to come out. All right, once you get these hex heads out, the door is going to want to fall out, so hold it up. So just push this hinge out of the way. And then just pick the door up like that. Okay, we'll do the same thing for the refrigerator door. Okay, now you take that last screw out, just support the door, hold it up. Okay, those are out. All right, no big deal. Pick up the door. Okay, now that's how you take the doors off. Okay, so next we're going to remove the top. And then after that we will pull all the Freon out, recover it. There's also a couple up on the top. These screw into the condenser. Now, I previously took this refrigerator and cleaned it, I think in a previous video, and it was just sitting around in the shop. Not much demand for these older models, but in this particular case it comes in handy. You know, we like to do jobs like this here at Aaron's Refrigeration, jobs that nobody else wants to take. All right, so that's the cover. Take that, put that over here for now. Also, there's a ground wire, disconnect the power right here, and then the ground wire. I'm going to try to make it as light as possible so the movers can get this thing up the steps. And then once we get this in place, get it all leveled and everything, start putting it back together, we'll disassemble the old one. And we won't need to worry about taking it apart caringly. We can just cut it to pieces. It's going in the trash. All right, so now let's take this off. Put this on the side here. All right, yeah, it's pretty clean up here. I think pretty sure I washed this thing down before. So the next step will be to remove the Freon from the compressors, remove the condenser fan motor, and remove the condenser. So we're going to have to cut lines, and then when we cut them, we'll mark them where they go. so as not to cause any confusion when we put them back together. So this is the timer here. We'll disconnect this. Okay. All right, that's step one. Step two, like I said, will be to remove all the seal system components and make this thing as light as possible. We'll be back. Okay, we are back here to start performing step number two. We got our recovery system here. We'll get some more equipment, but before I just want to mention, if you notice the yellowing of these breaker strips and some of the plastic inside the unit, there is a way to whiten these things up. You can go online and look under, I know they use hydrogen peroxide, but what I do is, if you notice those doors out there, they're sitting in the sun, because if you sit it out in the sun for a while, everything will turn white again. And I've already tested this out many times, and it does work. So just the food for thought, and let's get started with pulling out the Freon. Okay, we're all hooked up. We're pulling the Freon out of both systems, both the refrigerator and the freezer compressors at the same time. It's going to go through the recovery machine, and we're going to store it into this charging column. This is, I believe this is R12 here. Yeah, this is R12. So let's turn on our machine. Open up our valves. And let that run for a while until it's all down in at least 10-inch, 12-inch vacuum. And then we can start to disconnect. Okay. We are in a vacuum here, 20 inches on this side. Put in the vacuum on this side. So now we can shut off close our valves. We can disconnect our hose. And also this, let's see how much Freon we pulled out of there. Well, it's showing me 10.5 ounces, and that's a little low because the freezer takes 9.5 and the refrigerator takes 11. That's well, actually it's 7 because this evaporator coil's been changed, so should be 18 ounces of Freon in here. We got 10.5. When some of it gets left in the hoses and in the recovery, so it's not that accurate, but we'll hold on to this Freon and put it back in. It's clear, it doesn't seem to be contaminated, but we'll run it through a filter when we recharge it. Okay, so let's remove the compressors. Okay, so now we're going to start to disassemble all these pipes, these tubes up here, compressor lines, and then we will mark them so we know where to put them back when we reassemble this thing. So right now for the compressor lines, I'm just going to unsweat them. Okay, since the suction line and heat exchanger here has a joint here, and I'm not sure if this is the original compressor or not. Maybe somebody replaced it and added some tubing there because they couldn't get that into there. I'm not sure. It could be the original. I'm not sure. But anyway, since there's a joint here, we'll unsweat it there. Remember, the hottest part of the flame is the very tip of it. And you can see the tubing turning red. Okay. That's it. So now we'll take the, unscrew the compressors. Okay, now that we have these compressors unsweated here, we're going to remove all the bolts to hold it down, front and back, and then we'll disconnect the electrical, and then we'll take the compressors off, and then we'll seal up the line so no air gets in there. Okay. Okay, so now we need to disconnect the electrical. Okay, get that off. These are easy to distinguish, the purple wires, the freezer, and the gray wires, the refrigerator. Now these compressors should be able to just be lifted off. So let me get into a better position. Okay. Okay, I made a little bit of a mistake here. I wound up just unsweating the process tube from the suction line. This is the actual heat exchanger up there, the suction line. So we're going to take that off. All right. Okay. Now we got the freezer compressor off. Let me put that right here. Seal up this lines there. And then I think maybe and save these little sleeves here because they go on like that to keep the compressor. Okay, move that out of the way. Now this is a little difficult for me because I have two torn rotator cuffs. And it's very difficult to pick anything up above my head. Okay. That's caught on the other side. So that means bring it out through the front. Okay, this one's better off pulling this one out through the front because this suction line was getting hung up on the heat exchanger there. So we have to work this through. Oh, it's still the same thing. Okay. I probably would have been better off just unsweating the whole thing. Okay, let's pull this out. This is the refrigerator compressor. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to put all these nuts and bolts back on here so we don't lose anything. And I believe we can just leave the wiring up here. I don't think that's going to be in the way, but we'll remove the condenser fan motor and the condenser, and then that'll make it lighter for the movers to get it up the steps. Okay, so now we're going to mark these lines, even though it's obvious where they go. This is the freezer low side. And then we're going to put that right on here. And this one here, that's the process port. This is the freezer high side. Freezer high side. If you don't mark these, you could forget because they're probably not going to get this thing delivered for, could be a month from now, who knows. I don't want to forget. Okay, we only have two lines left to disconnect. Now I could unsweat these two lines at the condenser, but instead I've marked A and B, and I'm just going to cut them and put them back together on the job site. It's going to just make it easier for me. I don't want to disrupt those lines there. So we'll just cut these. Like I say, this is A, the other one is B. And then we'll swag out one side, put it back together. Okay, that's one. And we have another one here. Okay, now we can take the condenser off. Put this on the side, right here. Okay, so we're going to do a little preparation here. I've got these bag of these rubber plugs in different sizes, and we're sealing off all the lines so no air gets in there. We're going to re-sweat this process port in here like so, just so one less thing to get lost, because I'm not sure when this project will be completed. We'll do that. And then also we're going to swag out these two lines so that when we put it back together, it'll save us a little bit of time, and then we'll seal off these two lines too. Okay, swag this out to 3/16. And then we'll do that one. Okay, so these are both now prepared for the, when we put it back together, we won't have to do that, so we'll get some plugs. Okay, so while we're at it, I've got some of these bushings here that are kind of torn up that go into this condenser fan motor bracket. So we have 4 new bushings in here, and we're going to put new ones in. That'll help keep the vibrations down to a minimum. Okay. It's a little hard to work it in. Okay, then you put one of these brass inserts in here so that when you tighten the screw down, it doesn't squash the rubber. Okay, and we'll do the rest. Okay, let's give this unit a little wash down on the top. not. That's better than what it was. Okay, so we're about to load this refrigerator up on the truck by myself. This is a little piece of equipment we invented called a cargo flipper. It's got a patent on it, and we're just waiting to, this is a prototype, we're just waiting to get a manufacturer, so let's get this thing up there. So it allows me to do this by myself, and then I don't need any help. Okay. Okay, we'll just get the doors, get everything loaded up, and be on our way. Okay, so we are now on the job site and ready to remove a 40-plus-year-old Sub-Zero Model 361 RFD. And we're just getting the tools we need: nitrogen, soldering equipment, vacuum pump, recovery system, and our hand tools, which are in here. So we'll get all this stuff upstairs and start to disassemble the old unit. Okay, so here is the project, and we have to get this refrigerator. I'm just talking on the phone. Here's the we have to get this old 40-year-old Sub-Zero refrigerator out of this house on the second floor around this turn. And the customer built this platform here so we can make it a little easier. Hopefully it will work. First thing we have to do is take the old refrigerator apart. Okay, so here we have a 40-year-old plus 40-year-old Sub-Zero. Look at the size of that compressor. My God, I haven't seen one of these in 30 years. That is amazing. Probably one of the oldest refrigerators I've ever worked on. So we're going to take this apart, shut it down, and then take the doors off, disconnect the water, take the compressor out, and the condenser and the fan motor and everything else, so the movers can get this thing out. But look at this. Wow. Pretty. Okay. Take the hinges off. Okay, the door closer is already lifted off, so we'll lift this up like that. Take the door closer off. Okay, we have to start, remove the cover.
Okay, so let's get this Freon recovered. Okay, that looks good. It's empty. Close this off. Okay, so we pulled out 15.5 ounces of R12 and it's clear. That's amazing. 40 years. Uncontaminated. Just amazing. Now I'm going to remove this water valve and see if we can find a way to shut the water off.
Tell me when I should do it.
What I could do is I have a little shut-off valve that we can put on here, so at least you have a shut-off valve in the front.
Great, yeah.
All right?
Yeah, sigue nomás. Sigue nomás, sigue nomás. Sigue nomás.
Okay.
Yeah. Dale más
Take
atrás.
off the... Don't worry.
Aquí una lata de Rigoletto.
Okay, I'll take it off.
Sí, esta lata.
Then you can.
Sí, todavía no pasa esto y después la lata.
No.
Déjame pasar por acá. Espera una más. Yo creo que viejo, hay que seguir girando.
Ya.
Ya, ok. Ponle puesto.
Ok. Vamos.
Ya. Vamos.
Ya. ¿Ya?
Ya.
Sí, suave nomás. Suave nomás. ¿Plano es eso?
Ah,
¿O hay grada ahí?
no, ya está plano.
Es plano, ok.
Pero
Ya.
necesito traer un lápiz para que no se
Ok. Dale nomás, llévate nomás.
Sí.
Ya. Llévate nomás.
Jalo.
Ya. Háganos. Ya pues diga. Sí, ya.
Un poquito más, una grada más.
Ya. Ok.
Ahí para.
Ah,
Open the garage door.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
easier.
yeah.
¿Esto va dónde?
Trash.
Al camión.
Yeah.
¿Por qué se va por aquí?
¿Cómo por qué?
¿Por aquí? Claro.
Yo creo que de llevar, que vamos a llevar. Por eso hay haber dicho el 7.
Ya.
Just the stuff up there. If we strapped it. No?
Well, let's see
No,
if it's
igual,
going to
yo
hit.
estoy tratando.
'Cause some of that too, I mean, we can bend it down.
Yeah, exactly. Should we bend it down? Is that okay here?
No,
it's
it's okay,
okay,
because
Okay.
no, don't touch it.
No,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
flexible.
Sorry.
Ponémosle una punta de todas maneras.
Sí,
Aguántale ahí.
por.
Para sostener eso.
No cae.
¿Seguro?
Sí, esto está aquí conectado y si te quieres se aplasta un poquito ya. No, ok. Dale, no sé. Nada, nada más que sea.
Ya. Mom. Mom. ¿Me avisas? Ahí.
Ya.
Ya, vamos una más.
Dale, no.
Una más.
Pero ahora qué.
Ok.
Vamos.
Igual te muestro. Ok, vamos. Ya. Ya. Ya vayan enderezando ya. Ok. Vamos. Vamos a ya. Suave nomás. Ahí suave nomás. Ya. Vamos. A eso, ahí suave nomás.
Ya. ¡Vamos!
Espérate, cógele bien yo.
Ok.
Vamos.
Ahí pon ahí en la cara.
Ok.
Para yo poder levantar un poquito.
Ya una más.
No, es que no puedo.
Ya todos párale nomás. Alzando.
Permíteme un poquito. Vamos ya. Ahora sí.
Y ahí nomás, aguántate ahí.
Ya.
Vamos. Párale nomás ya.
Ya.
Vamos.
La última. Pon ahí ya.
¿Necesitas blanque?
¿Ah?
¿Blanque?
Sí, sí. No.
Ok.
Blanque.
Dime one blanque.
Yeah, please.
Toma.
Hold.
Yo sostengo. Toma que sea blanque, o sientes allá.
Ya que mira. No que no tan duro, pero.
Mirándole un poco porque no tienes espacio para arriba.
Ok, no.
Mírale. No, espérate, viejo.
¿Ah?
Mírale para allá, a tu lado, ¿no ves que no tienes espacio arriba? Mírale un poquito.
I have the dolly here.
Oh.
Lift it with the dolly.
No, it's okay. I have it moved.
Ya, ok, ya.
No,
Ya.
Home sweet home.
that's okay.
The hard work is over.
Yeah. Come here.
Next project is to put it back together. Now, we can start putting this thing back together. And everything looks okay. Got it up okay. So let's get to work.
Not very nice because first they let me hang. That's why I told you, yes, I can do it. And then they called me back and said, no.
No, that's their loss.
But it was close. Did you see it?
Yep.
I was up here so I could really
so here we have to sweat all these lines back, and we mark these. This is the refrigerator high side, which goes in right there. This is the process port. This is the suction line, which goes into there. This is the freezer high side. No, this is the freezer process port. This is the freezer high side line, and this is the freezer suction line, which goes in right there. So we'll start to sweat. Okay, so now we're going to put together the lines for the refrigerator. Pull out these plugs that we put in here, keep the air out, and save these for the next job. Score, sand down the lines before you put it in. This happens to be the discharge high side line that comes out of the compressor. I marked it. RHS, refrigerator high side. And then we'll take this off. And clean this out. Inside there. And then we'll do the rest. Suction line, process port's already on. Then we'll pressurize it before we put the cover back on. Make sure there's no leaks. Okay, flux. Okay. Be careful where you point the torch. Little wet rag on there.
Okay, next we're going to do is pressurize it with nitrogen, check for leaks. Okay, so we first pressurize the refrigerator side. I'm going to check, make sure we don't have any leaks. And then we'll pressurize the freezer side. And the reason why I'm doing this first is because I want to put the cover back on and push the refrigerator back, and then we can change the filter dryers from the front. Okay, everything's back together. All the shelves are in. I just have to put the doors on and charge it up. That's about it. Okay, so we are just about finished here. We are weighing the gas in. I feel cool air. Okay, so far so good. Monitor this pressure here. It should be done.